Hello and welcome to Cafe DC. I'm Faiz Rahman. Our guest today is Todd Sheikh, who's a very famous figure in the Pakistani American community and almost a household name in Pakistan because of his work and his background. So let's welcome Todd. Todd, welcome to the show. And you've been here for 6 weeks, but most of the time you're in Pakistan doing a lot of good work for the oppressed, for people, victims of disasters. And as we speak, your team, 65 person strong, is working in Peshawar, some of them at least working in Peshawar with the victims of the Peshawar massacre. So, without asking any question, I just want you to basically tell us about your work in Pakistan.
Sure. Well, Fez, thank you for having me on the show again.
Absolutely.
It's a big honor, and I really appreciate it. I know we had some plans, a few months back when we talked about me coming on the show again. We were going to do a musical program,
exactly.
and
We're you all promised to bring a guitar.
Yes.
And that's your background. Basically, you're a musician, and you
Sure.
wanted to play some good Pakistani as well as some good American music. Yeah. But I appreciate the thought. And tell us the reason. Why didn't you bring the guitar?
Well, I use music to further my relief work and get attention for the cause of humanitarian work that I'm doing in places around the world, especially Pakistan, which I've made into my other home. So we're all in a period of mourning after the Peshawar Army school attack.
Exactly.
And in that period of mourning, I just didn't feel right about playing music, and I'm feeling very sad about that. It's really bothered me as it has bothered everyone.
I appreciate the thought, and I'm so thousands and hundreds of thousands of people watching this show elsewhere in Pakistan and around the world will also appreciate this thought and this concern for the victims of that huge tragedy. CDRS, you founded this organization in response to the tragedy of 2005 earthquake in Pakistan,
Exactly.
which was disastrous. They lost hundreds of thousands of people. Villages were just wiped out. So that was so please tell us about the genesis as well as the progress of your organization.
Sure. Well, I came to Pakistan with a group of Pakistani American doctors after just returning from Hurricane Katrina and Sri Lanka tsunami, which we just had the 10-year anniversary of the tsunami. So I was in Sri Lanka for the relief effort of the tsunami, came back to States. Hurricane Katrina happened very soon after. And literally the day I got back from working at Hurricane Katrina, there was the earthquake in Pakistan. So I called the Pakistan embassy, and they got me in touch with a group of Pakistani American doctors. And I came and fell in love with the place and decided to stay long-term because it was such a such a large disaster that I knew that long-term efforts to help rebuild the healthcare system and reestablish hospitals, help the people with all the things that they needed. I knew that was going to take a long time, so I committed to a long-term project and started my organization there. Other disasters, I'd just been a volunteer.
Long-term commitments demand infrastructure,
Yes.
proper infrastructure, organization. So that's what you built.
Yeah, I'd always been just a volunteer with another organization before this, and while I was in Pakistan, I decided that I felt I was ready and in a position where I could serve humanity and a lot of good work that could be done. And I fell in love with the children, the people of Pakistan, the mountains, the Khana, the amazing Laziz Mazadar Khana.
Oh, of course.
And which I've gained 100 pounds since 9 years of being in Pakistan.
Please don't blame it on Pakistan.
I do blame it on,
Really?
I blame it on myself, but I also blame it on Pakistan in a good way because it's just too much,
food all the time.
great food, and everybody thanks me. That's how people thank me there and in the Pakistani American community here.
They feed you. What's your favorite Pakistani dish?
Oh,
Don't tell me it's biryani.
Biryani is very nice, but I think I love the barbecue and I love aloo keema. I love anything saag or palak.
Oh.
There's just keep going on and on. We could talk about that the whole show. But basically, I fell in love with Pakistan and everything about Pakistan. And I decided that I wanted to continue serving there. And unfortunately, in the last 9 years that I've been there, there's been,
Quite a few.
a lot of work,
disasters,
unfortunately.
yeah.
I wish that I could have spent my time doing more development work and less disaster response work. But there's been the floods of 2010 and the floods 4 or 5 years, And
what's the reason, Todd? What's the reason? Is it because the state or the people or the government, I mean, they're not ready for these disasters? What happens? Why there are disasters after disasters, especially the floods?
Well, I think that the flood disasters have a lot to do with climate change.
Right?
Well, they have a lot to do with climate change, but also if in river engineering you don't clear spillways and you don't do some basic work,
So
and
some
if
of-
people build
yeah.
villages on floodplains and areas that are going to naturally be flooded over time at some point, these are the reasons why.
So you need proper education, proper engineering, construction work, and some planning. So you think these disasters can be prevented?
They can be made less
Okay.
disastrous,
Okay.
but floods will happen, and unfortunately with climate change, the climate has had an effect on the rainfall and the monsoon and the flooding and things. So I think this is all, part of it. But, my job is basically wherever and whenever there is a disaster situation where food, water, medicines, doctors need to be brought in, my team and I manage the logistics of that. Just in the last 6 months since I was here last, I got back to Pakistan not long after I was on your show in June, I believe. And I hadn't been there for more than 10 days, I think, when this army operation in North Waziristan happened. And I was contacted by my friends at Imran Khan Foundation to support their efforts. They asked my team and I, because of our capability of medical
displaced people,
response, they asked us to join them. So my team and I have not only joined them, but we've grown because they asked us to do a lot of work. And we have seen upwards of 80,000 patients in the last 6 months between the Banu area emergency, where the people of North Waziristan, most of them have been temporarily settled in that area, and they've needed medicines and they've needed medical services. And the people living in Banu, with all these people now on top of them in their communities, have also been affected, and their hospitals and their stores of medicines, everything has been overwhelmed. Their system has been overwhelmed. So we're helping there. And we're running a rural health center with Imran Khan Foundation and a children's ward at one of the hospitals in Banu. And we have mobile medical teams going around the communities, taking basic medicines and basic primary health services to the people directly where they're staying. Because obviously it's a very tight-knit and conservative society, and the women don't go out, and so we have to take services to them.
You have to be respectful of the traditions as well.
Exactly, and then we did our job too well, and so Imran Khan Foundation asked us also if we would work in the flood areas when the floods happen. So we had 5 mobile medical teams going there, and we're just wrapping up that mission now at year's end, and go back to total focus.
It's awesome,
in
Todd,
Banu.
what I see, again, CDRS, the Comprehensive Disaster Response Services. Basically, your organization is so agile, it has such agility that you can work all the way in south, in the villages of Sindh to Banu, the northern areas, and keep these folks ready to respond to any disasters in those places. This is wonderful. So, how many people do you have?
Right
What's
now,
your team?
we had about 35, but because of the Banu emergency and the partnership with Imran Khan Foundation, that led to funds and resources to where we could hire a larger team. So we have another 30 people. And we brought some of our team back from the 2010-11 floods when our team was larger and we had more money. And then, of course, money dried up, and we had to get smaller. But now,
So right now, 65 people. So I mean, it's good that not just you're helping the victims of these disasters, but you're also creating some jobs, some economic activity as well. Yeah.
I got to be honest with you. I wish that we would have the financial support from the Pakistani American community more than what we do. A lot of Pakistani Americans do support us, but if they gave you know, even $5 a month, if everybody did that, then we would be able to open up many more hospitals in many more remote areas. Because what we can do that others can't, quite frankly, is, and we've proven this 6 years in Azad Kashmir, we've been in SWAT, Mother-Child Health Center in the northern part of SWAT since 2010. Not only can we go to remote and disaster-affected areas with our team, but we can stay there and do development work after the disaster, helping to reestablish the destroyed healthcare system or destroyed healthcare facilities. So what Imran Khan Foundation and CDRS are going to be working on together in the next phase, when people are able to go back to their homes in North Waziristan, we'll follow them and go to the, obviously those hospitals will be ransacked, destroyed, you know, and in very bad condition. Even if the building is still there, everything will have been taken out, and, you know, they'll need to be reestablished. And the government there will need assistance, and that's what we do. We can go to those places, and we have tough people working for me that can go to these areas. Plus, we also hire local people that need a job and have a capability to serve their people, and then they can work full time to do that. So we provide, you know, half of our budget is medicines and medical supplies. And then, you know, a good 40% is the human resources, the doctors, the nurses, the ayahs, the midwives, the people that support that, and they go out and do their work. We would love to expand this mission and work in many areas of Pakistan. And we are, in fact, we have a couple donors that have asked us to start in Karia area, in a small village there. Yes. So if people out there want to start a pediatric center or a special kind of, some kind of health unit, a dental unit, or a kidney dialysis center in some remote place, maybe they're from there and they want to start something, we can work with them. We can work with APNA doctors and others who want to come to Pakistan and work in projects. We can be their implementing partner on ground. So this is the kind of stuff that we've done. And for 9 years in Pakistan, we have an excellent financial transparency and track record. We've never been in trouble. We've never been accused of any wrongdoing. We've worked well with the army or partner NGOs. The local communities love us. And even though I'm a foreigner, an American working in some of these very sensitive areas in Pakistan, including some areas where, you know, the American government is looked upon with a lot of suspicion and a lot of even anger at times, because we go in a very professional way with our medicines and working with the local people and even hiring some of the local people and working with local partners. Very quickly people come to me and say, you know, we will never let you leave. We want you to stay, and we'll protect you. We'll never let anything happen to you because of the love and support that is between us and the trust that is built up. So,
Todd, on this thought, we'll take a small break and we'll come back. We'll talk about this, an American working on the ground, you know, working with the people on the grassroots level. And also, you mentioned about the Pakistani American community, your fundraising efforts here. So please stay with us. When we come back, we'll raise this issue with our guest today, Todd Shea.
There's a lot of work we can still do. There's people that are living in a disaster-type situation in poor villages all the time in Pakistan.
Welcome back. Okay, Todd, so we were talking about an American working on the grounds in Pakistan, and especially with these organizations on these issues with the people. So tell me, what it's like? I know there is a very high degree of anti-Americanism in Pakistan. As you said, anger at some of our policies there. So what it feels like to be there with the people without any, like, you know, any hindrance, any barrier. You're just there, right?
And I have no security. In 9 years, I haven't, I've refused security when it's been offered, and I pay not even a cent of donor money goes to any security budget. We simply don't have a security budget for me. We don't carry weapons. We don't have any display of power to intimidate anyone that they shouldn't do anything to us. It's not like that. We come in with medicines, love, and support, and good contacts with local elders in the community that announce that we're coming, and we have people that already on the ground when we go into a place that tell the people who we are. And then we very quickly show them what we're all about, which is giving good service.
Do they come up to you and talk about America, American policies?
Yeah, that's what I was.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
That's what I was going to tell you. That it's amazing that the people of Pakistan are even more generous of spirit and heart towards the American people than, unfortunately, the American people are towards common Pakistanis. The common Pakistanis that I meet say, "We love Americans." You know, across the board in 9 years, I've had very few be hateful to me because I'm an American. Nobody's ever threatened me. I haven't had any threats. But you know, the thing is that you know, everywhere you go, human beings are human beings.
Absolutely.
And so people make it a point to say, you know, we love Americans and we love America, but my God, your government, we don't agree with what they're doing and we think it's the wrong thing. And we think that perhaps the American people are not told the full truth or misguided in some way, but we love Americans. But you come to America and you ask them about the average Pakistani, and most of these guys, because of what they've heard in the news, 2% of the truth 100% of the time about Pakistan, they think that all Pakistanis are terrorists. And because of people like Malala, now people are starting to understand that there's a lot of innocent children there.
I mean, this morning, just this survey came out, and according to that survey, Malala is the most respected.
Well, Americans need to know that there's millions and millions of children just like her. So we need to keep that going, because unfortunately we're battling against shows like Homeland, which when I saw it the other day for the first time, and I said, that's what they're portraying as Pakistanis, that's what they're portraying as Islamabad, this is the situation they're portraying. They're making it look like, you know...
but you know, Pakistanis have protested.
Well, they should.
Because of... It wasn't shot in Pakistan. The whole series was shot in South Africa.
Well, even if they shot it, even if they shot it on a sound stage in Hollywood, they should be accurate and they should be fair and they should show it as it is.
Well, it's fiction. It's fiction. It's
yeah, but they're trying to. They're doing something very dishonest. It's fiction, but they're trying to act like this is based on real events, and they're showing as if that is what Pakistan is, and that's totally wrong. Those producers...
I mean, to be fair with them, they're not here to, you know, defend their position here. But again, fiction is fiction. I mean, you know, we read novels and things come out as a reality to us. But, you know, so moving on.
Yeah.
Your fundraising here in the Pakistani American community. I know from some surveys and studies that Pakistani American community is a very giving community. They give a lot to different causes. What's your experience been in this regard?
Well, I think that I'm a very small organization and maybe not as well known as others like TCF and DIL and Islamic Relief. So a lot of people don't know me. So I think there's a pretty large group of people that they just think, oh, he's CIA. He's a white guy working in Pakistan. So they either dismiss me as CIA or they use that as an excuse because they don't want to donate anyway. So they just say that as their excuse. Everybody has an excuse.
And what you say in your defense?
I say, look at me in 9 years and talk to the people in the ground in the villages where I'm working and that have known me for years and years what my activities are. The ISI visits me once a month, you know, or my team to find out what's going on, if there's any foreigners coming, looking after, you know, and make sure I'm all right, because they want to make sure I'm okay. So whatever they're doing behind the scenes, you know, that's their job, to know what foreigners are doing.
You travel a lot within these states. I mean, you have friends in Florida, Atlanta, Georgia.
I have a very wonderful group
California.
Like, you know, yes, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Houston, Dallas, Denver, Atlanta, Pittsburgh, DC. These are the places I've visited just on this trip. And we've raised funds, and it's almost 100% Pakistani Americans that have supported me. So I have this wonderful, small but loyal group that sees what I'm doing, knows what I'm doing, has worked with me on ground, or knows somebody who has, and they've supported me. But the larger group of Pakistani Americans doesn't really either know me, or some of them don't trust me, or some of them, you know, maybe they've forgotten about their roots back home and they're here now and they don't bother with Pakistan. And I'm an American who's come from here to go to there working on the ground. And for some reason, some of them don't like that. So, you know,
Todd, before I forget, I wanted to ask, I mean, something about your background as a musician. And then, of course, what's been your most touching moment in Pakistan? You've been there for 9 years. Can you share at least one incident, one moment where you were really touched?
I mean, there's
I know you see
brother,
so
there's
much.
so many. I mean, in Banu, we were at the, this when I first started just the assessment of the mission. When I went to Banu myself to see what is the situation, and we were going to start mobile medical teams. But once I got into the Women and Children Teaching Hospital and saw the condition of their children's ward, their pediatric ward, there was 2 or 3 patients to a bed. There was not enough cleaners, so the place was unhygienic, dirty. Children were coming there and with their mothers and catching other diseases from other kids instead of getting healed. They were out of medicine there. They were overwhelmed because of all the surge of people coming in. The hospital OPD and the number of patients that were coming in overnight with serious cases of measles and malaria and sepsis infections, they were coming in at a rate that was more than what the hospital could possibly handle. So with Imran Khan Foundation's funds and my team, we were able to come in there and fix the place up, fix the generator, put in ACs so the place was cool because it was so hot at night. I can't even imagine how people could sleep. They didn't have any medicines. They didn't have enough doctors. We brought in all of these things. We fixed the place up. We cleaned it up. We got cleaners.
So Imran Khan Foundation is basically your partner there?
We have been basically deputized by them to do the healthcare for their mission. It is their mission, and we're under them in this mission working. We're doing all the medical work for them. And, so there's a lot of personal stories. There's 2 babies came in, twins, that were born premature on the road from North Waziristan down towards Banu by one of the families that was coming down, having to escape the fighting. And the babies were born prematurely because the lady was, it was too much on her physically to make this journey walking. So we had an incubator, thank God for them. So they were able to survive. There's so many stories like this, so many children that we were able to save just in that pediatric unit. So these are the kinds of things we're doing. And also, about the Peshawar army attack, this really hurt me so bad. I'm working with Colonel Abrar Ismail, retired, and he is working with Earthquake Reconstruction Rehabilitation Authority of Pakistan, but he also works with me. And so because he knows a lot of the army people in Peshawar, I sent him with some of my team members to deploy a group of very, very experienced psychologists, psychiatrists, and
to deal with
doctors
the trauma,
from Karachi. And we managed all their logistics, information, accommodations, transport, so we could get them there. They toured the school, they met with the children who were injured and teachers who were injured and people who were traumatized. And this is going to be an 18-month project. And CDRS is partnering with Naya Jeevan, Dr. Usher Hassan and Naya Jeevan. They're an amazing organization that does social insurance for domestic workers and for employees who have a catastrophic injury or illness. And they cover that with their insurance program. But they also do other things, like when emergencies happen. They put this effort together, and we're supporting that. So CDRS does many things, and this is one of the efforts. I had to do something, and Dr. Usher is a very dear friend. When I came to know through our mutual friend, Dr. Zara Shah, who's worked with me also as a volunteer many times.
But you didn't have any background in organizing and managing a non-profit organization, right? I mean, you just picked up the ball and ran with it, and then people came along and supported you.
Well, over time since 9/11, when I started, yes. I was a musician. Obviously, I had no experience in disaster response, but I realized that I have some natural abilities there to put together in a very chaotic and tragic situation supplies and things that are needed so people can start helping those who are suffering and those who need help.
You also went to other parts of the world as well,
I've been to Haiti, Japan, the Philippines, Sri Lanka, Belize. I've led very successful, small but very successful disaster response missions in all of those countries, working with other larger partners, working with the military forces of that area.
But you spend most of your time on Pakistan.
Yeah, in the last 9 years, I've also visited in that 9-year period. Just last year, I was in Philippines, Haiti in 2010, Japan in 2011. But Pakistan has become my home because I love Pakistan and because there has been so much need for the work that we do. But you know, I implore the Pakistani American community and Pakistanis everywhere to support my work so that I can do more in between the disasters. Because in between the disasters, when money runs out, there's a lot of work we can still do. There's people that are living in a disaster type situation in poor villages all the time in Pakistan. And we need to be able to cover that time too, not just during disasters.
Where do you stay in Pakistan when you go there?
I'm all over the place.
Okay.
I mean, in the last 6 months of my life, 3 months of that have been spent in Banu, North Waziristan. I've been to Jung and Hafizabad and Multan and Muzaffargarh in the floods.
Exactly.
And then I've been up to SWAT, our center there. So I'm all over the place. I visited Karachi and Lahore a couple times during that trip for related work and presentations. So, you know, I do quite a bit of running around while my team is working on the ground. And I also participate directly in the ground work as well. So I'm kind of all over the place. And I invite people who may be seeing this show to contact me, look at what we're doing. And you know, don't just give blindly. Check me out, talk to me, ask questions, find out what I'm doing. Because it's their responsibility. It's Pakistani Americans and Pakistanis who love their country. It's their responsibility to know who is doing the work on the ground and know what they're doing and support them. Because you know what? My time is more valuable than their money. But I need money in order to work. My time that I'm giving 100% of. So if I'm giving 100% of my time, they know how valuable time is because they don't have time to go back in many cases because they have job here and family and career and they have to take care of their family. But if they have extra money, then that's what they need to give to organizations like mine so that we can continue giving all of our time to these relief efforts. Now, there's so many Pakistani Americans who are giving to not just one, but 10 or 20 different organizations. And I salute them and I appreciate them. But there's also those who ignore a lot of this, and I implore them
hopefully they will learn about your work more, and then they'll come around. Tarshid, thank you very much for your good work. God bless you. We appreciate, as a Pakistani American myself, I admire and appreciate your work, and thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you very much for watching this episode of Cafe DC. I'm Faiz Rahman, and our guest today was Tarshid. Thank you.